Dimension Drive is fucking awesome. This was the greatest surprise of IndieSelectE3 for me. From the slick sci-fi aesthetic to the upbeat rock and synth soundtrack, I could tell immediately that a great level of polish and care was put into this project. But even then, I wouldn't have guessed going into this game that it would be one of the finest shoot-'em-ups I'd ever had the pleasure of playing. This game's main gameplay mechanic and gimmick is the ability to switch dimensions, which in gameplay terms means switching back and forth between two different screens. This will come into play quite often, not just to avoid enemy fire, but to avoid your most dangerous enemy, which happens to be terrain. Simply touching a wall or asteroid is enough to instantly destroy you. Because of this, the game is focused more on careful and strategic traversal than it is on twitchy reaction times. There's a sort of thinking with Portals mentality that I felt throughout a lot of the stages. Learning how to use each of the new power-ups and when was the right time to do so was the game's biggest draw for me. Having to focus on two screens is something that took me more than a handful of levels to finally get a grip on, but once I did, I didn't want to put the controller down. The developers are smart enough to realize that a lot of players will stick to one dimension or the other out of pure gameplay habit, if not out of pure stubbornness, and they remedy this with the use of the energy meter. Unlike most shooters, you can't just hold down or rapidly tap the fire button. At least not for free. You have to skillfully time your shots, as each one will drain your energy meter. It refills from enemy drops, so you aren't encouraged to fully avoid fighting, just to avoid waste. The only way to fill the bar at anything more than a snail's pace is to switch to the opposite dimension, meaning that to use more powerful weapons, the player will have to switch constantly. It's an intelligent use of checks and balances, a dance of interlocked systems that work flawlessly to encourage the game to be played correctly. The game also does a great job of baiting you into more dangerous positions thanks to the data cubes it puts throughout each level. Grabbing enough of these unlocks new weapons for your ship, which grant even more freedom in how you can get through each level. But they're almost always put out of your way, or hidden behind terrain, which means the player is risking a life in the process of grabbing it. The game uses its dimension switching mechanic to its fullest potential during its boss fights, which were a highly addicting test of skill. When I took on this boss for the first time, I got my first glimpse of the true potential of the dimension switching mechanic, and it just got more exciting from there. While playing the game just for the progression can be fun, going for a high score adds a whole nother level of challenge. Oftentimes, one screen or dimension has a much safer path available than the other one, but if you want more points, you have to force yourself into the more dangerous situation. This risk-reward system is implemented seamlessly into the stage design, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. The game also contains a co-op mode which adds to the challenge not through extra hazards or restrictions, but through coordination. It can be quite easy to mix up which player controls what ship while playing in this mode, and with the extra bullets and movement on both screens, I found it difficult to retrain my brain for this mode. The developers seem to have expected more mistakes to happen during co-op play, however, and while you share a health pool and lives between players, the game graciously gives you more to start with, at least on the normal difficulty. Co-op acts as a fun little addition at the very least. The only thing I can think of as a possible negative in this title is that the story wasn't entirely gripping, but it wasn't boring either. Frankly, the game didn't need a story at all to succeed. The delicate balancing act that is its gameplay was more than enough to make the game an enjoyable experience. As far as similar titles go, the first game that came to my mind when playing Dimension Drive was Ikaruga. The ability to switch dimensions in the former was reminiscent of how Ikaruga handles its color switching mechanic, as both require quick reflexes and steady attention. My second would be the little-known DS title Chrono's Twin, which is a 2D side-scroller where you control a character on both of the DS's screens in different time periods simultaneously. It was only released as a cartridge in Europe, but the DS is region-free, which means it's great for importers. The game is also available as a download from the eShop for $5, so check it out! Dimension Drive is artistic vision meeting stellar execution, and it's now one of my favorite shoot-'em-ups. If you are at all interested in the genre, buy this game on Steam, PlayStation 4, or on the Nintendo Switch. I doubt you will be disappointed.